We're back with the 302 engine build. More specifically than that, these new headers we have. Tri-Ys. Old school stuff. And we're going to talk a lot about these Tri-Y headers and why we have Tri-Ys in the first place. You know, this is normally what we run, right? Just normal long tubes. Why are we going with Tri-Ys and where did I even get them from? Let's talk about it. Let's start off by talking about these, right here. The common 4-into-1 long tube header. 4-into-1 meaning 4 pipes into 1 collector, okay? And now we all know how an exhaust, header works. The pulse comes into the pipe, the exhaust valve shuts. This pulse is coming out of here, a rapid pace. That creates a low pressure zone here because this is traveling down the pipe. Nothing else can, come in because the exhaust valve is shut. That creates low pressure zone behind the pulse. That low pressure zone helps evacuate the rest of the exhaust gases out of the chamber the next time the exhaust valve opens. And it also helps pull air through the intake side during overlap. That's, the essential thing there. There's also sonic resonant tuning waves going up and down these pipes. As soon as the wave comes down and it hits the end of the exhaust, it'll reflect back up and it'll bounce off the back of the valve and it'll come back down this way. Same thing in the intake. We're not going to talk about that. That's how they work, right? Now, while there are many different tuning elements to headers, the main one you're going to look for is primary tube diameter. And I guess to a lesser extent, collector diameter as well. But primary tube diameter is kind of the big one when you're really looking for a set of headers. Depending on how much power you're making, the bigger tubes you're going to want, right? People can go overboard on that. If you go too big, the problem is there is not enough exhaust gases filling this tube because of the bigger volume. There's not enough gases to be able to fill this tube to properly create a seal. Remember now, this exhaust gases is traveling down the tube, creating a low pressure zone right here. It's not able to create that low pressure zone if it itself is not occupying the diameter of the tube, creating a seal behind it. But you're going too small, you can't get the exhaust out as efficiently as you could if it was a bit bigger too. That's the balancing point. And in our case, we have a Mustang, a Ford, right? We got shock towers in the way, right? Shock towers that ride right up against these headers. Now that's a problem because we're not able to really upsize the tube diameter based on the amount of power we want to make with this thing. We're limited, right? There's not enough room. And speaking of room, all these 4 pipes, they take up a lot of it, right? The starter's right there. Messing with the starter with the headers on, pain in the ass. Has to be all done from underneath the car. You can't reach in here and do any of it, right? So we're stuck. These are 1 5/8 primary tubes. That's really the biggest we can fit on the Mustang at the moment. And, they're kind of dinky, right? Let's look at the Tri-Ys now. Now we come to the Tri-Y header. And the reason they're called Tri-Ys is because, well, there's 3 of them. There's 1 Y here, 1 Y there, 1 Y down here, right? These 2 cylinders and these 2 cylinders share a common pipe. Essentially, think of this as another collector, okay? A collector for just these 2 tubes, though. Now, that can help. That can help because ordinarily, with a traditional long tube header design, the only time the other tubes can help scavenge out of the other tubes is when it hits the collector, okay? Meaning, when this pulse comes down and it hits this collector, it will then have a pull on the other tubes, helping those come down, okay? Scavenge. Now this is able to do that earlier on. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to change the overall RPM in which these headers are tuned for. These are acting more like a shorty header up here, right? Engaging in that power band. But it's kind of nice, you know, having that more scavenging effect going on. More importantly than that, though, and in terms of our case, are these pipes right here, 1 7/8 diameter, okay? We're not able to run a 1 7/8 set of long tube headers, but we can kind of cheat the system a bit with these, because when the exhaust pulse comes out, it'll just come right into this, and it will act as if it's a 1 7/8 primary tube. Remember, these are not all firing at the exact same time. They take turns, okay? So this pipe, you know, essentially forget that that's there. That's your header when that fires. Then forget, you know, that one's there. This is your header when that fires. They share the pipe, but essentially you have a stepped header, you know, going from this, I believe 1 5/8 to 1 7/8. And in the Mustang, that's going to be key, right? And then they come down here to this collector. Now, this collector is going to tune to a different RPM than these do. This is going to tune more like a traditional long tube header when the pulses reach down here. So all we're doing is just broadening the power band. Yes, it's not as good as a dedicated high RPM header, and it's not as good as a dedicated low RPM header. But you're taking best of both worlds and you're broadening, you know, the mid-range. In theory, right? You don't know if that's really what's happening until you actually test it. But in theory, you know, that's a good theory. So, now that we've kind of talked about, you know, the tri-wise, and that's really all there is to it. It's just essentially taking two pipes, combining them together to allow you to run one bigger tube diameter than you would be able to in a traditional car. If the Mustang did not have shock towers and I could run any primary tube length I wanted, well, you know, there'd be a bigger argument just to run bigger long tubes than running these. But, you know, if you configure these, I mean, you can put the Ys way up here. You can put the Ys way down here, right? You can build custom, you know, tri-Y headers. The tri-Y design in of itself is a really good design. It's just you have to tailor where these Ys meet in order to achieve whatever power band you want to achieve. But these are just off the shelf. This is what we got, right? And speaking of which, where did we get them? All right, where did we get these from? Oh, and by the way, this is going on in the background. That's actually one of my tripods that is now unusable. Thank you very much, lady. Goodness gracious. Can you see this face of guilt right here? Goodness me. Anyhoozle. These headers, right? These tri-Ys, we got them from a place called GS. Right. Okay. Man, it's kind of hard to do with you sitting right there. Anyways,
Hey, I was here before you.
I guess that's true. All the inside, yeah, you won't be able to see it, but looking on the inside, the actual merging points look really nice. Overall, it's a fairly well-built header. I mean, it's not made out of super thin, chintzy tubes that's just going to rust and completely disintegrate right away. It's not bad, really. It's pretty good. And the overall port, actually matches up to those AFR heads fairly well. So we're not going to have a little dinky port and a bigger port on the head or nothing like that. So they are, again, right there. That's what these are, and that's the price of them. $159.99. That is fairly cheap for, you know, a set of headers. Along with came all the hardware you'll need, the gaskets. Actually, fairly nice gaskets. Let me grab one. Here, hold this. Why, thank you. These fairly nice metallic gaskets, not just chintzy paper ones. So it came with these for the actual header flange, and it came with those for the collector flange here. This, unfortunately, though, is a 2.5-inch collector, not a 3-inch. So that is the only bummer. But I've been looking, and off the shelf, try-wise, 2.5-inch seems to be the thing that they come with. I haven't seen one with a 3-inch collector yet. If there is one, let me know. But that's okay because, you know, overall, they're just pretty good as far as I can tell. Like I said, I don't know what it's going to do for power yet until I actually get them on the car. Well, until I get an engine built for the car, put them on the engine, put the engine in the car, right? Or have the engine dyno tested before it goes in the car, which I might do, actually, to test a few things out. Until then, we don't know exactly what they're going to do for the power. Because like I said, these kind of tune like shorty headers, and this Y down here will tune a little bit better, more like a long tube, but really, look how long that collector is. The normal collector on a long tube's about here, so that's still going to tune more of a shorty header kind of thing. So we'll have to see if that's something we want when the time comes. I mean, I guess, you know, that's as good of a review as I can really do. Oh, nifty thing on them that I noticed. The firing order on a small block Ford. These two pipes right here, they're the rear on the driver's side. These two pipes right here fire one after the other. And they did put them into two separate tubes. So they're not firing into the same 1 7/8 tube. That's pretty good attention to detail. Because the other ones just, these two made it up and these two made it up. On that side with the firing order like that, they actually do change the tubes that meet up. So that is nice. I don't know, that's all I can come up with to say about these things, right? What do you think? What do you think of these?
Kind of smudgy.
Kind of smudgy?
Yep.
Well, it's because I...
Right there. Right there.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Right
Yeah, a little smudgy, I guess. Well, I've been, you know, holding them. That's not their fault. Alright. Well, I guess one last thing I can say is, I don't know if you can see that. See, there's an inner pipe right there, along with the outer pipe. This thing is double-walled. That is a pretty hefty-duty piece right there. That's hefty duty. So if this accidentally smashes something on the ground and you bottom out on it, it should survive it pretty well, because that is it's double walled thick piece of steel there. So yeah, that's all I got to say. That's these headers in a nutshell. If you want them yourself, you can go and... I guess I don't know if they're going to fit the car either. They're supposed to fit the car, but again, we won't know until we try it, okay? Which we will in the future. So until then, I'll catch you next time. Pretty good, huh? See how I did that? That's how a professional YouTuber does it right there, right?
You had lots of accidents.
I know. This is like the 37th try. I know.
Even though I got done before you.
Oh, well, you did. You just cut it all off, didn't you?
No, not all of it.
You have scissors in your hand.
I only did a few snips.
Let's go get something to eat.
Yeah.